Copyright disclaimer. Under Title 17 U.S.C. Section 107, allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research. Fair use is permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing nonprofit, educational, or personal use, tips the balance in favor of fair use. Okay, this is from cs.cmu.edu, Chapter 11, from the book by Marjorie Wakefield, Understanding Scientology. Chapter 11, Ethics, the greatest good for the greatest number of dynamics. Hubbard does not bother to justify the inhumanity of his ethics. If families are broken up, if friends are turned against friends, if suicides occur, if an entrapment of the very spirit that makes humans human should occur, then that is subsidiary to the aim to prove Hubbard right. After all, as he is careful to instill into the outlook of his followers, anything that happens to anyone is fully and totally that person's own responsibility. They pull it in on themselves, don't they? The Mindbenders by Cyril Vosper. Romeo 2-45. An enormously effective process for exteriorization, but its use is frowned upon by this society at this time. Scientology's execution procedure from Creation of Human Ability by L. Ron Hubbard. The systems of thought and mind control devised by Hubbard in Scientology were very good, but not perfect. As in all organizations, there would inevitably be few troublesome souls who would question, doubt, and generally resist the program. It was to deal with this troublesome remnant that Hubbard developed his system of ethics, a system which would effectively close the loop of social control in Scientology. Like being sent to the principal's office in grade school, the order to go to ethics strikes certain terror in the soul of a Scientologist, including children. This is because the ethics officer holds the ultimate power in Scientology, the power to apply the dreaded label of suppressive person and to cast a member out of Scientology and into spiritual oblivion for millions of lifetimes to come. A Scientologist will do almost anything to stay out of trouble with ethics, including children. Ethics is defined in Scientology as rationality toward the highest level of survival along the dynamics. But in Scientology, ethics has to do primarily with the group, troll. The group being Scientology. Anything that promotes Scientology or benefits Scientology is therefore defined as ethical. Whereas anything which is contra survival for Scientology becomes by definition unethical. Similarly, there is a phrase frequently heard in Scientology, the greatest good for the greatest number of dynamics, meaning that which is good for the group, Scientology, and for mankind is more important and takes precedence over that which is good for the individual. A dangerous philosophy. It's also the inversion, you guys. The chart of ethics conditions in Scientology is as follows, in descending sequence: power, power change, affluence, normal operation, emergency, danger, non-existence, liability, doubt, enemy, treason, confusion. The theory in Scientology is that a person will always be in one of these conditions with regard to any area of life. So a person could be in a condition of affluence at his job, a condition of emergency in his marriage, a condition of non-existence in his finances, a condition of normal operation with his health, etc. And for each of the conditions, Hubbard devised a formula which, if applied, is supposed to cause the person to progress to the next higher condition. That some of these formulas may not make much sense does not matter, because Ron Hubbard has said this is what they are. They must be right, right? The formula for the condition of confusion is simply find out where you are. Once that has been done, the person will move up to treason, for which the formula is find out that you are. Imagine how, the insanity. I'm pretty sure I read some of this before in the ethics PDF. In Enemy, the formula is find out who you really are. Oh, they don't really want people to learn who they really are in Scientology. The formula for doubt is a bit more complex. When one cannot make up one's mind as to an individual, a group, organization, or project, a condition of doubt exists. The formula is 1. Inform oneself honestly of the actual intentions and activities of that individual group, project, or organization, brushing aside all bias and rumor. 2. Examine the statistics of the individual, group, project, or organization. 3. Decide on the basis of the greatest good for the greatest number of dynamics, whether or not it should be attacked, harmed, or suppressed, or helped. Evaluate oneself or one's own group, project, or organization as to intentions and objectives. 5. Evaluate one's own or one's group, project, or organization's statistics. 6. Join or remain in or befriend the one which progresses toward the greatest good for the greatest number of dynamics, and announce the fact publicly to both sides. 7. Do everything possible to improve the actions and statistics of the person, group, project, or organization one has remained in or joined. 8. Suffer on up through the conditions in the new group. If one has changed sides or the conditions of the group one has remained in, if wavering from it has lowered one's status. Now, upgraded by the ethics officer to condition of liability, the formula is 1. Decide who are one's friends. 2. Deliver an effective blow to the enemies of the group one has been pretending to be part of, despite personal danger. 3. Make up the damage one has done by personal contribution far beyond the ordinary demands of a group member. 4. Apply for re-entry to the group by asking the permission of each member of it to rejoin, and rejoining only by majority permission. And if refused, repeating steps 2 through 4 until one is allowed to be a group member again. This is also the inversion, you guys. Remember, in black magic and or Satanism, Malachiism, whatever you want to call it, they invert everything. Boys are girls, girls are boys. Family is first. No group comes over family. Individuality is not allowed. You have to be group. In other words, find out what needs to be done and do it. Having done that, one is now in a condition of danger. This condition applies when an activity is in trouble. The formula is 1. Bypass. Ignore the junior in charge of the activity and handle it personally. 2. Handle the situation and any danger in it. 3. Assign the area where it had to be handled, a danger condition. 4. Handle the personnel by ethics investigation. Like children. 5. Reorganize the activity so that the situation will not repeat. 6. Recommend any firm policy that will hereafter detect and/or prevent the condition from recurring. When the person has gotten his activity out of danger, he or she is then in a condition of emergency, for which the formula is 1. Promote and produce. 2. Change your operating basis. 3. Economize. 4. Then prepare to deliver. 5. Stiffen discipline or stiffen ethics. If the person has successfully applied the emergency formula, the condition of normal operation now applies, and its formula is 1. Don't change anything. 2. Ethics are mild. 3. If a statistic betters, look it over carefully and find out what bettered it, and then do that without abandoning what you were doing before. I'm pretty sure, too, ethics usually has to do with making money. 4. Every time a statistic worsens slightly, quickly find out why and remedy it. Maybe LAPD needs to do that. If things are going well and the formula for normal operation has been applied for a period of time, then the person could be said to be in a condition of affluence, for which the formula is 1. Economize. Be sure you don't buy anything with a future commitment to it. 2. Pay every bill. 3. Invest the remainder in service facilities. Make it more possible to deliver. 4. Discover what caused the condition of affluence and strengthen it. Yeah, it's always about money. Do wonder who LR8 stole this from. If things are going really well, the person may make a power change into another area of endeavor. If not, the person is in a condition of power, for which the only rule is, don't disconnect. Take ownership and responsibility for your connections. These are the ethics conditions in Scientology, and they are taken very seriously. Each week, each person working for the organization, i.e. on staff, will turn in his or her stats to the ethics officer. The person will be assigned a condition by the ethics officer and will be required to apply the appropriate formula for that condition to their job. In addition, the ethics officer can assign a person a condition. Let's add in here, a person can be a child. In any area of his personal life. And the person must apply the appropriate formula and submit a written application to the ethics officer for upgrading to the next higher condition. For the Scientologist, the ethics conditions and their formulas is a way of life. Another function of ethics in Scientology is the administration of security checks. To members, security checks called sec checks are administered with the member on the e-meter. You guys always notice their little code words. They never say child. And in the case, the e-meter is used as a lie detector. The first sec check encountered by a member, like a child, will be the staff questionnaire, which is given when the person first joined staff, like a child. Some of the items on this questionnaire are 1. Name. 2. Life history. 3. How did you come into Scientology? 4. History in Scientology. 5. Do you have any psychiatric institutional history? 7. Do you have a criminal record? 8. Do you have any crimes for which you could be arrested? 9. Do you have any physical disabilities or illnesses? 10. Do you have any record of insanity? Mind you, psychopath LRH is the one creating this, allegedly. 11. Are you connected to anyone who is antagonistic to Scientology or spiritual healing? 17. Have any of your family members threatened to sue or attack or embarrass Scientology? 26. What are the details of your 2D, second dimension, second dynamic, or love life? You know, like children having love lives, right? History over the last year with names and dates. 27. Have you any homosexual or lesbian history? When and with whom? 28. Drug history. 31. Are you here for any different purpose than you say? Imagine the children going through this. LAPD, Chicago PD, Homeland Security. Sec checks are a fact of life in Scientology. It must be remembered that, should a member defect, their ethics folders with the written answers to these questions can be used per Guardian's Order 121669 to blackmail or otherwise intimidate the defector. One of the earlier sec checks was called the Joburg, which was developed in Johannesburg, South Africa, and was a much feared security check for many years. Sample questions from this interrogation include the following, and this is for children. Have you ever stolen anything? Have you ever been in prison? Have you ever embezzled money? Have you ever been in jail? Maybe LRH should have answered some of these. Have you ever had anything to do with pornography? Have you ever been a drug addict? You know, like LRH. Do you have a police record? Have you ever RAPED anyone? That's good blackmail material. Have you ever been involved in an abortion? Have you ever committed adultery? Have you ever practiced homosexuality? Have you ever had intercourse with a member of your family? This is all satanic, you guys. Have you ever slept with a member of a race of another color? Have you ever BOMBED anything? Have you ever murdered anyone? Have you ever been a communist? Have you ever been a newspaper reporter? Have you ever ill-treated children? Imagine that. Have you ever had anything to do with a baby farm? That's also satanic, by the way. Are you afraid of the police? Have you ever done anything your mother would be ashamed to find out? How do you feel about sex? How do you feel about being controlled? Imagine a 5-year-old going through these questions. Later, the contents of this security check was revised into the only valid security check. which contains many of the same questions, with the addition of several others such as, have you ever practiced cannibalism? Also satanic. Must be a coincidence, huh? Have you ever peddled dope? Have you ever practiced sex with animals? Also satanic. Have you ever attempted suicide? Do you collect sexual objects? Have you ever practiced sex with children? Also ritualistic. Have you ever practiced masturbation? Have you ever killed or crippled animals for pleasure? Have you ever had unkind thoughts about L. Ron Hubbard? Are you upset about this security check? As if this weren't enough, there is the lengthy whole track sec check designed to ferret out overts a person has committed during his thousands of past lives. Of the 346 questions on this form, a sample few are, tell me the Illuminati's not real. Have you ever enslaved a population? Have you ever sacked a city? Have you ever raped a child of either sex? Have you ever bred bodies for degrading purposes? It's also cultic, you guys, occultic, ritualistic, because they do that. I'm just thinking here. I remember hearing various rituals to create like a Satan's baby. Okay, it's just going to continue, guys. I'm not going to continue with the words that I just talked about before, but you guys should be able to connect the dots. Have you ever deliberately tortured someone? Have you driven anyone insane? Did you come to Earth for evil purposes? Have you ever made a planet or nation radioactive? Have you ever maimed or crippled other people's bodies? Have you ever torn out someone's tongue? You know what that means, you guys? Anytime you see news stories or even in real life you hear someone had their tongue cut out or even their throat. I believe Joan Rivers allegedly died from some weird throat thing. It's because she talked too much. Have you ever blinded anyone? Have you ever punished another by cutting off some part of his body? They do that in the mafia. There's more to that. Have you ever smothered a baby? Imagine asking a child this. Have you ever had sexual relations with an animal or a bird? This is the second time they've asked this question, you guys. Have you ever castrated anyone? I have to add in here, I remember years ago hearing, what's his name? Anton LaVey's son. So Anton LaVey's son said that he was slated to be really high in the ranks of that particular satanic coven, whatever they call it, that satanic circle. And as he got older, he did not want to be involved with it. And he alleges, you have to look it up, he did talk about it. He alleged that his father had him, instead of doing a blood sacrifice, that he castrated him. It's all alleged. There is even a special security check for children from ages 6 to 12 who are asked questions like, what has somebody told you not to tell? Have you ever decided you didn't like some member of your family? Have you ever bullied a smaller child? Have you ever been mean to an animal, bird, or fish? I think they're looking for psychopaths, to be honest. Have you ever broken something belonging to someone else? Have you ever done anything you were very much ashamed of? Well, that's good to have someone over someone's head, right? Have you ever failed to finish your schoolwork on time? There's the proof that they asked the children, you guys. There it is. Even a moron like LRH messes up sometimes. Have you ever lied to a teacher? More for the children. Everybody's fine with this. Have you ever done anything to someone else's body that you shouldn't have? Have you ever felt ashamed of your parents? What a great way to turn parents against the kids, right? Kids against parents. Have you ever lied to escape blame? Have you ever told stories about someone behind their back? Etc. Similar to security checks in another assignment frequently meted out by the ethics officer, and that is the assignment to write up one's OWs, overts and withholds, which in Scientology means all the things one has ever done wrong, coverts, and especially those which someone else almost found out about, withholds. This will commonly be assigned to a person who is in the process of working out of a condition of enemy. The ethics officer is usually not satisfied until many pages of OWs have been produced by the properly repentant member. At one point in Scientology, it was a practice to lock the member, like it doesn't exist still, in a closet for 2 or more days while he wrote up his sins. That reminds me of someone who was writing this book trying to cover her own butt. Like it doesn't still exist. Like they don't still have children in closets writing their overts and withholds. False imprisonment, degradation, neglect. If a person in Scientology should become querulous, especially should he find fault with something written by Hubbard, or should he doubt some point of dogma, they just keep pushing it, don't they? That person will be quickly isolated, like a child, from the other students, like children, and dispatched to ethics until his overts can be discovered and dealt with. This is not a recipe for complete narcissism, is it? I think some of the people carrying out all these narcissistic policies, I don't think they're naturally a narcissist. It's just the whole thing is narcissistic. It is the job of the ethics department of Scientology to assign the person the appropriate lower condition and have him write up his OWs until he has come to see the light and can be returned a more obedient and humble member of the group. In the case of serious deviation from the norms of the group, there are more severe penalties which can be applied to provide the motivation for a member to more obediently conform. Some of these penalties have in the past included, I remember hearing this, a dirty gray rag tied to the left arm to indicate a condition of liability, confinement to the premises of the organization. LAPD's fine with that. Suspension of pay and dismissal from post. Well, they love that one. A black mark on the left cheek to indicate a condition of treason. Personally, I think all of you protesters, which I don't even like that name. I think everyone should be called child advocates. I believe all the child advocates out there should be looking for these symbolic things like a gray rag or whatever on the left arm, black mark on the left cheek. I also think that is a nod to the black magic, because you've got the left-handed path is the more diabolical, where they believe in harming, whereas the right-handed path is more what people might call white magic, where you do no harm. You see all these people going around covering their left eye? There's a reason for it. The person cannot be communicated with by anyone in the organization. Deprivation of sleep for up to 72 hours. Isn't that the favorite of everyone? Even the last 5 years, how our own governments were keeping us awake. Assignment of manual labor for up to 72 hours. This is child abuse, but I guess Child Protective Services is fine with it. LAPD is fine with it. Chicago PD is fine with children doing manual labor for up to 72 hours. No problem there. All written in black and white, but, it's against our laws, but we don't really care about the United States laws. They're just there for fun. In the case of persons who become actual enemies of the organization, the ethics order of fair game can be applied. Check it out, LAPD. None of you seem to understand what fair game is. It's like y'all playing dumb over there. Which means that these persons may be deprived of property or injured by any means. Isn't that against the law, LAPD? By any Scientologist without any discipline of the Scientologist. May be tricked, sued, lied to, or destroyed. Should be shown to courts throughout the world. At one time, Hubbard ordered the ultimate punishment for 13 people who had defected as enemies from the organization. Hubbard ordered that auditing process Romeo 2-45 be used on these people if they were seen by any Scientologist. Romeo 2-45 is a term understood by every Scientologist. When he first demonstrated it, it is fabled that Hubbard shot a Colt .45 revolver through the floor of the stage he was lecturing from. Routine number 2 through 45 refers to the act of shooting someone in the head with a Colt .45 and is the execution procedure in Scientology. Isn't that wonderful? Kind of sounds illegal, doesn't it? Unlawful? In defending themselves, Scientologists will say to outsiders that Hubbard meant this as a joke. However, in a document called Racket Exposed, Hubbard did in fact order 13 people to be shot on sight. Why didn't we say their names, you guys? I hate when people give partial information. So if we had the names of these people, we could see if they just came up missing. No police investigation. More people missing. Other aspects of the system of social control enforced by these ethics arms of the organization are knowledge reports and committees of evidence. How many times have the children of Scientology talked about these? How they had to do that when they were in the Cadet Org or the Delphi Academy, all their schools, their indoctrinations, so-called courses, all of them had to do it. Exactly the same during the Nazi war, but what do I know? Allegedly, Hitler was into the dark occult, but what do I know? I personally think he was a puppet, to be honest. Listen to this BS. Knowledge reports were introduced by Hubbard. You know, he can't even stay off drugs, but, you know, he introduced them, right? In 1965, and the system of knowledge reports is not unlike the system used in a communist country. Yeah, like I said, in which everyone spies on everyone else. Yeah, it must be a coincidence, right? Kind of like the last 5 years where certain individuals were told, if you don't do something, you don't get a job. Trying to make family members turn against family members. But what the fuck do I know? In Scientology, if you see someone doing something wrong, you are obligated to write up a knowledge report on that person to be sent to ethics for handling. You know, like a child. Hubbard justified this system in a policy letter called Knowledge Reports, in which he says, to live at all, one has to exert some control over his equals as well as his juniors, and believe it or not, his superiors, you know, like children, and get a real group in return that collectively can control the environment and prosper because its group members individually help control each other. There you go. A person in the organization suspected of being a dreaded suppressive person will be called before the Scientology version of a jury trial called a Committee of Evidence, or ComEv for short. A ComEv, however, will have little to do with justice, as the results have frequently been determined ahead of time. And the ComEv is itself just a formality through which the offending person can be officially declared SP and ousted from the organization. A suppressive person in Scientology is defined as one who actively seeks to suppress or damage Scientology or a Scientologist by suppressive acts. A suppressive is basically anyone who is an enemy of Scientology. It is hard to convey the terror that the word suppress a person arouse in a Scientologist. It means a person who is thoroughly evil beyond redemption and whose soul is doomed for eternity. Even being around an SP can be bad for one's health, spiritual and otherwise, and a person connected to an SP is known as a PTS, or potential trouble source. When a person becomes ill or is doing badly for any reason, it is assumed that the person is connected to an SP. When a Scientologist becomes ill, an auditing action such as SND, search and discovery, might be ordered to discover the identity of the SP in the person's environment. Once the SP is located and disconnected from, according to Scientology theory, the person should recover. It is a strange brand of medicine. It is always assumed that Scientology itself is good, and that those who are against Scientology are by nature evil. In an article called Why Some Fight Scientology, Hubbard wrote, Scientology had no enemies until the word was out that it worked. Criminals, communists, perverted religionists alike swarmed to support a new fraud, a hoax, a brand new way of extorting money from and enslaving man. You guys gotta love the mockery, don't you? And then in 1950, they found that the new sciences worked with, to them, deadly accuracy. And with a shudder of terror, they faced about and struck with every weapon possible. The press, the courts, shady women, insane inmates, politicians, tax bureaus, these and many more were used in a frantic effort to beat down what they had found to be honest, decent, and accurate. There's the inversion, you guys. The unthinkable thought in Scientology is that something said by Hubbard is wrong. Doubt in Scientology is a lower condition to be punished. Of course it is. Brave New World. Scientology is a group in which there is no room for individuality, only conformity. And this extends to the act of thinking itself. What was most frightening for most people about the novel 1984 by Orwell was that the one sacrosanct territory belonging to a man, his thoughts, had been violated, invaded by the state. In the real world, we are only responsible for and have to fear the consequences of our actions. But to Orwell's world, a man had to fear the consequences of his thoughts as well. Most of us would have to agree that living in a world in which we could be punished, not only for what we did, but also for what we thought, would be a frightening world indeed. Scientology comes very close to being this kind of world. As Hubbard once said, the e-meter sees all, knows all, tells everything. With Scientology auditing, there is a constant invasion into the privacy of the thoughts of members. Like the last 5 years throughout the world? But what do I know? Remember how many people were questioned and made to feel like they were not good and they were evil and they were, what do they call them? I'm trying to remember. I can't even say the word, but it was against something that started with a V. They had all kinds of evil words for them. But what do I know? In Scientology, the road to total freedom, Hubbard has created a world frighteningly similar to the nightmarish world of Orwell's fantasy. Must be a coincidence, huh? And in Scientology, it is a system of ethics, which is Big Brother, constantly watching over all. Thank you. Have a nice day or night wherever you are. I will leave a link in the description box. Like and subscribe if you choose. Peace.